And this is just going to be a short driving vlog talking about WWDC 2016. So Apple announced a ton of things. They announced updates to basically four of its different OSs. The first being watchOS. watchOS 3 was announced. It includes a number of enhancements for the Apple Watch, most notably, at least in my opinion, most notably instant app launch. So if you guys didn't know before, I didn't know before, I don't own an Apple Watch, but apparently it just took really long to start apps. So apparently they pretty much start instantly now, so that's great. They've also added a dock for your favorite apps that you can swipe from the bottom to activate, as well as the control center and like 2 new watch faces. But come on, Apple, like, it's 2016, where are third-party watch faces already? Come on, Apple. Up next, they announced tvOS. Like, they didn't number it, but it's just like an update that adds a few things, like single sign-on for your cable box. So I guess people had to sign in to their Apple ID and then to their cable provider every time they just wanted to watch shows like regular cable channels with their Apple TV. So I guess that's fixed now. You just have to sign into your Apple ID and you're good to go. They've also added YouTube search and like more game support. NBA 2K, I saw that. I forget what other games, but some more games. That's cool. And you can also now use your iPhone as a remote in case you misplaced your Apple TV remote or whatever the case may be. There's an app for that now. So yeah, that's cool. Up next is the addition of Up next, Apple announced Mac OS Sierra. So the 2 new names here. So Mac OS is the new name for OS 10, which makes sense because we were on OS 10 for like 15 years, so that doesn't really make sense. And it's just more in line with like iOS, tvOS, and yeah, it works better with the rest of their watchOS. It fits in with all those things perfectly. Apple also announced, with OS 10 Sierra, they added expanded continuity functionality. Like, you can now sign into your Mac just with your Apple Watch. Like, it can recognize it's you when you're wearing your Apple Watch and automatically authenticate you, which is cool. I wish you could do it with your iPhone as well, but I guess not. Apple just is really tight with their security, so it is what it is. And the big new thing though for OS 10 or Mac OS Sierra is Siri. So Siri is finally on the Mac, guys. I don't know what took them so long. It's finally here now, which is great. So Siri also has gotten a little bit smarter. She can take a little bit more complex requests. Can be used with like Finder and everything on the Mac. So that's really cool. Biggest update, I think, is, however, has been to iOS with iOS 10. It's pretty much like somewhat redesigned. Biggest redesign since like iOS 7, and functionality wise it's like probably even a bigger redesign than iOS 7. So they completely revamped the lock screen, which is awesome. It's pretty much a lot like the Android lock screen now, which, I mean, I think the Android lock screen is like a lot more functional. Hold on, I'm just turning off my car. Android lock screen is a lot more functional in my opinion. And yeah, so like, let me just take you through it. They added better camera access. In the past you had to swipe up from the bottom and it was like kind of hard to do. Now you can just swipe over from the right and you can just get into the camera, just like Android's been doing for a while. They actually stopped doing it that way though with Lollipop. So it's going to be interesting to see how Google reacts, because well, there's that, and then they also added the ability to swipe from the left to access your widgets. So yeah, that was what Android had been doing for a while, and also killed in Lollipop. And yeah, it's just like really kind of funny because Apple just like took these features that Google had for the longest time and then just killed off. So hopefully Apple will make them cool again, and then Android users will beg Google to add them back, and they will, and that'll all be fine and dandy, I guess. And another thing Apple copied that Google is still doing, but is probably going to, is pretty much doing away with, in a way, is like the bubble style notifications. Google's been doing that since Lollipop, and Apple's notifications they've been cool, but like it's hard to explain. It was just like a bunch of text. Now it's like a bubble. So Apple's notifications are now more in line with what Android's been doing for the past few years, and they also have support for quick actions and stuff like that. So that's really cool. The thing is with the Google in Android N is like kind of doing away with that, making their notifications a little more boxy and a little more text centered, kind of like iOS notifications were in 7 and 8. So this is going to be interesting to see, like, when Android N is out, when iOS 10 is out, whose notifications people actually prefer. But they're both going to be really good. Both are kind of adopting a little of each other's styles and functionality, especially like Google with making them boxier, and Apple with making with adding just like quick actions and stuff. So that's really cool. Also, what else? Yeah, 3D touch. Apple seems to be adding a lot more functionality with that's activated via 3D touch. Like for example, when you long press an app, they're adding new like live things to the app shortcuts. Like you can kind of see the content of an app as a shortcut. I forget exactly what example they used, but it was really cool and seemed useful. So that should be really cool. I'm excited as a iPhone 6s owner. Also, they redesigned Apple Music, so there's a bigger focus on text. So previously, Apple Music was kind of a pain to navigate, and if you had your own music library, like everyone had before Apple Music, it was just really hard to get to because the whole app was just designed around Apple Music, and if you didn't have it, it kind of just missed out because it was just harder for you to like access your library. So Apple's kind of fixed that, and they've kind of just redesigned the app in general with a bigger focus on text and album art. And overall, it is a lot more functional, but I can't say I'm the biggest fan of it. It does look a little bit like boring and bare. I don't like the big text headlines. It's just, I don't know. I don't think the font looks very good, and it's just like, I don't know. It could be a little bit prettier in my opinion. I also think that they took out they stopped like coloring the background when you click on an album. There used to be like when you clicked on an album before, it would be like a little, like say the album's predominant color was like red, your background would be like red when you clicked on the album, and I think they killed that off. So I didn't like to see that, but hopefully they'll add it back. I feel like in beta updates to iOS 10, they're gonna like do a lot of subtle tweaks to the music app, because this is a big redesign, and not all the changes, at least in my opinion, are better. So I think there's just going to be a lot of like subtle tweaks and everything made here and there. Apple does seem to do that a lot in iOS betas anyways, and this is again like an overhauled app. So I think they're going to make a lot of changes. Another overhauled app is the Maps app, and unlike the music app, it looks a lot better in my opinion. They added a lot more color, a lot more features, and it pretty much in a lot of ways puts it on par with Google Maps. They added search along route, which Google just added. They added ways to like quickly figure out, like find nearby restaurants and stuff in your area. I know they had that before, but it was kind of half-baked compared to Google's solution. Now it seems like it's easier to access. They were showing off how you can just like slide to like find specific types of restaurants and stuff. So that was cool. And making it more colorful is just kind of more helpful when you're looking at like, because maps are all about color, you know. Like for example, one way that they that it's more functional with color is the routes are now sorry, I'm holding my phone and my hand's getting tired. Like you can now see traffic, like when there's like dense traffic along the route, that part of the route line is like now going to be red, like Google's been doing for a while. But it's just an example of how Apple's made the app prettier and more functional at the same time. Now it is going to be interesting to see how users take to a completely redesigned Maps app, because like Google on the other hand has changed Google Maps very like slowly. They update it every month, so they update it a lot more often, but they don't redesign it every month. Over the past year, it looks a lot different than it did last year, but that's because Google, again, is updating every month. So that's how they add features and everything and kind of make it an easier transition for users. And whereas Apple has just basically had the app's been the same for a while. They had little features here and there with point updates. And now they're just completely overhauling it. So it's a Maps app. Like it's a popular app that like people rely on. It's an important app is what I'm trying to say. And when you like overhaul a really important app, it tends to get backlash, just like case in point, the music app, when they overhauled it last year, got a lot of backlash for it. So yeah, it's going to be interesting to see just like how users react. It's a better app overall, but I don't really necessarily agree with Apple taking this kind of approach. I think they really just should put their stock apps in the App Store or find some kind of way to make them updatable without issuing an OS update, you know? Like when you update the OS updates can do things like enhancing, like overhauling the lock screen and stuff. Save that for the OS update. Save important app updates. Like just do those periodically, so users aren't like, oh my god, every time they overhaul the app, you know, like every year it's a story like this. Anyways, rant over about that. Also, Apple has, what else has Apple done? I've done a few more things. I can't think right now. Yeah, again, like they redesigned the OS a little bit. Control Center looks a little bit different, more colorful. They did a few more things. They announced this new app for like teaching kids how to code on the iPad. It's really cool. Like I forget what it's called. It's like Swift something. It's because Apple's all about pushing their new programming language, which is Swift. It's like it showed a robot on one side, and the robot was like 3 spaces away from its objective. I forget what it was, if it was like something it had to pick up or smash or something. I forget what it was, but it was 3 spaces away from it, and they had to type in order for the robot to move, you had to type in the move command, and that would move it 1 space. So then it taught the kids that every time, or it's supposed to teach you that every time you want it to move, you have to type the move command. So you type it 3 times, it moves 3 times, 3 spaces, and then there was another command to do whatever with the objective. I forget, but like that was just like, it struck me as a very interesting way to teach programming. I took 2 programming classes. I wouldn't consider myself a programmer or a coder because I'm not very good at it. I passed my classes, but when I took my first class, it was really hard to like grasp the concept of programming. So it's gonna be interesting because like coding is gonna be really prevalent in the future, even more so. We're gonna need a lot more programmers than we have now. So it's good that Apple's taking steps like this and thinking about how to teach programming, because it is a really tough thing to teach. So that's really cool. So yeah, it was a pretty big event overall. I'm really excited for macOS Sierra, iOS 10, tvOS, tvOS updates, and watchOS 3. Let me know what your guys' favorite announcements were from the event as well in the comments down below. And I'm off to the gym right now. I'll catch you guys later.